It's weird. And that girl, take it away. Feel free to ask your question. Yes. While I wait for you to put your question up, I will just say that my name is Ashanti. I am a doula of 11 years. So I've been working with pregnant women, helping them with resources, information, and support throughout their pregnancy and birth and postpartum experience. I have been doing lactation support during that whole time. And I just became an IBCLC officially 2 years ago as of the 1st of January. 9 months postpartum, and I can tell my supply is dropping. Can you give tips on how to increase? So when somebody says that their supply is dropping, the first things that I want to think about is, have there been any changes, like significant changes, such as how often you are expressing milk? Like, have you cut back on any nursing sessions or pumping sessions? Has your menstrual cycle started back recently, whereas you didn't have it a couple months ago? Because sometimes the menstrual cycle, when it comes back, can make your supply dip a little bit. If your baby has started to be introduced to solid foods, sometimes they might start nursing a little bit less, which can pull your supply back a little bit. So I want you to think about, are there any things that you have changed recently? Because usually supply doesn't just dip on its own. It's usually a result of a change, of a shift. So let me know if you've had any shifts. But regardless, you don't pump unless you're at work, which is twice a week. Your periods have come back. Did they just recently come back? Some people, doesn't come back for a year. Some people, it comes back right after the first 6 weeks. Some people, it's like, so in June. Okay, so not recently enough that it should just now be causing a change. Any solid foods being introduced? Any new stress? Have you been having any changes in your eating habits? Hey, my angel, welcome in. So it could be nursing a little bit less because of the solids being introduced. No significant stress. So it could just be she's not nursing as much. So maybe as frequently, but have you noticed the nursing sessions have maybe gotten shorter at all? Could you be pregnant? That's another question. And when did you start to notice your supply changing? She said, no, do not wish that on me. Groceries are at one of the doors if somebody can grab it. And also, so if you only pump, so this is a good question to ask. If you only pump when you're at work, and that's not very frequently, what is leading you to believe that your supply is decreased? That's where we should have started. What is leading you to think that your supply is decreased? Katie, welcome back. Because pumping is not really a good indicator of what your supply is doing. And I feel like if you're somebody who doesn't pump that often, especially, the older the baby gets, the less you start to get out of a pump. But that doesn't necessarily mean your supply is going down. A lot of people just don't really respond that well to the pumps. You may also, thank you for those pops and the repost. You may also want to think about if you have replaced your pump parts lately. Because if you don't pump that often, you still want to make sure that every few months you're like replacing your pump pieces. So you may need new tubes, you may need new parts. So if you're pumping and you're getting less than what you usually get, you might want to look at your pump and your parts. You may need some replacements. So for anybody that's in here, if you just slid in or if you've been in here, we are doing Power Hour Ask an IBCLC. Your lactation questions answered. So I have been in IBCLC officially for 2 years as of January 1st, which is why it was a good time to do this now. And IBCLC is the highest professional level of lactation support that you can earn. There are peer breastfeeding counselors who are usually just other moms in your community that can support people at a community-based level. Most of them don't have to have really any formal training. It's peer breastfeeding counseling because it's based off of just like personal experience with breastfeeding, and you're just like emotionally supporting people. Like, yeah, I understand what you're going through. Like, here's some small tips, but they usually will refer.
My else in the den.
Oh, you found your puppy? Okay.
Where's the find it?
Okay. She's been looking for that puppy for the longest. So you have peer breastfeeding counselors, you have lactation counselors, certified lactation counselors. You're welcome. If there's anything like more, feel free to DM me. I can direct you. If you want to do an actual like consultation with me, we can make that happen as well. I do virtual consults. So, you know, I know it's just touching on some basics here for the live stream for the Power Hour Q&A, but if you desire anything further, just reach out and we can do a virtual consultation if that's something that you need, or I can help you possibly find somebody in your area if you're in the US. And even if you're not in the US, it's possible that I might have some connections to people wherever you are, because I know a lot of people. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything else. But becoming an IBCLC is much more. Oh, I got you. So if you do want more help, DM me. I know exactly who to send you to. And she does house calls and virtual stuff and everything. So just DM me and I have the perfect person for you. So for IBCLC, you have to do 95 lactation specific education hours, 5 communication hours, 14 college level accredited health science courses. So biology, sociology, physiology, psychology, all the ologies, all the things. You got to do all of those. You have to have anywhere between 500 and 1,000 clinical hours. How much you have to have depends on where you're doing your training and who you're doing it with. I was able to sign off on my own clinical hours because I was already certified as a volunteer breastfeeding counselor with an accredited organization. So therefore, I was already recognized and I was able to sign off on my own clinical hours to just like attest that, yes, I did provide 1,000 hours or more of services to people in my private practice or whatever have you. And then you have to sit on a board, an international board exam. And that exam is hard. I tell people, like, if you don't know a lot about lactation work, a lot of people are aware of like nursing and how you have to take the NCLEX and how it's like this big exam, whatever. The IBCLC exam is like the NCLEX of nursing, but it's international. Welcome in, y'all. Welcome in. It's international. So it's like people from all over the place were taking that exam. And they take 3 months to give you your results. Let me tell you the anxiety I had waiting on those exam results. And I was terrified to open up that email when I got it. I was just like, oh my God. I think I still have the recording because my living room camera was recording at the time that I got my results. The way I was jumping up and screaming, I threw myself on the floor. I rolled around. I was kicking my feet in the air. My kids were just standing around looking at me like, what the hell is her problem? Let me tell you, only 5% of IBCLCs identify as Black. 5%. So to be one of the 5% was a great feeling, because I'm not even going to hold y'all. Like, I love lactation work, and I have really, really grown to love it even more over the last 2 years since being certified. It's not really my main jam. Like, if I could pick a favorite space to be in and a favorite role, welcome in, Julietta. My favorite part of birth work, well, aside from placenta work, is really the prenatal education piece. I really love helping the families get educated and like ready and prepared, and seeing their faces light up when they're like, oh, I had no idea about this. And then giving them the information and seeing them leave with the new confidence of like, okay, I got this. Like, I know what to do now. I love that. I love that. And then I like the little aftermath of after they have the baby and they're like, dang, I'm so glad that I hired a doula, because I felt so prepared. Like, my birth team was really surprised that this was our first baby, because they said that we were so prepared. You know, we were educated, we were informed, and I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. And of course I love breastfeeding. That's, but I didn't think that I would ever want to become an IBCLC per se. But then when I found out I had the requirements already to like easily get my certification, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it for the culture mostly. Just to be a representation of Black IBCLCs in a space where there are not many, but also to potentially be a bridge for other aspiring Black IBCLCs to, hello, ma'am, to pursue lactation as a career, lactation consulting as a career, and have the opportunity to mentor if it's desired. And I did start a little mentorship program, but yeah, I kind of just put that on hold for a little bit, because I felt like people weren't taking it seriously, and I'm like, I don't have time to mess around with people who don't want to take it seriously. I need people who, hi Miss J, welcome in. I need people who want to be committed and really, really want to do this work, because I don't care if I got paid. I don't want to mentor anybody who's gonna like still waste my mental capacity. Like, please don't piss me off. You know what I mean? Like, don't waste my time. Please be serious about this. So, okay. So I'll think about reintroducing that at some point. But yeah, I don't know. So that's some background about like IBCLC work. And again, y'all can feel free to ask any questions. If nobody's asking any questions, I'm gonna just yap in the meantime. As an IBCLC, you have the ability to accept insurances, which is real nice. Hey, Amanda, welcome in. You can accept insurance, which really helps you like level up. Thank you for the daily. And that was one of the most exciting parts for me, is because I was able to really expand my clientele by being able to take insurance. I can still work for myself. I'm also partnered with, it's kind of like an agency, if you will, that they, oh, you like my new coffee stickers? It's kind of like an agency where, people will go to the agency and say, I need services. And then they send out emails, and then anybody who's local to that particular client can accept the case. And then it can either be a house call or an office visit. Thank you for the 2026s. Hey, Holly, welcome in. I really like house calls. I'm not going to lie. I just hate the driving part. And it's very time consuming. And since I have a boatload of kids and I can't just be out all day driving from house to house to house, I prefer to do office visits. But it's something very sweet about the house visit. And you get to see people in their own environment too, which is really beneficial for them if they're having a problem, because it's like, you know, you take your baby somewhere and then suddenly they're not doing the thing that they're doing when they're at home, and they're like, this is not usually how this goes. Now they're latching just fine. And I'm like, yep, that's how it always goes. But I can usually still assess and see when there's a problem anyway. But when they're in their own environment and they're at home, I can usually just kind of stand in a corner, and the moms are like, here, let me show you. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to stand back here, and I want you to do whatever it is that you normally do. Just pretend I'm not even here. Hi, Alexa, welcome in. So I stand in the corner and I'm like, I just want to see how you would normally start a nursing session. Pretend you don't see me. And then afterwards, I will come closer and get a good look. But I can observe from across the room, trust me. Because when you're standing there hovering, the baby's like, Harpo, who this woman? And yeah, just, so I got to act like I'm not there. Good morning to you too. Thank you for the daily heart me. I appreciate you. So it's I don't know, it's a real I love doing lactation work because I feel it is one of the areas where we fall short when it comes to support for new moms. It's kind of just like a second thought, and usually it's not a thought until there's already a problem. And if we do more lactation education beforehand, less moms would have problems. More moms would be more successful with their breastfeeding journey, because you got to think about it. It's like if milk is your baby's literal lifeline when they are born. Thank you for the shares. Milk is your baby's lifeline when they are born. And you're trying to breastfeed. You don't know what you're doing. Hello, can we pin that? Because colostrum is milk. People need to shift their language around that too. I say when your mature milk starts to flow, because colostrum is indeed milk. My milk didn't come in yet. Yes, it is. You have milk. Your mature milk hasn't transitioned yet. Your milk hasn't transitioned into mature milk. Not right now. Is it working? Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure you don't need batteries. If it's working, then you gotta give me a few minutes. But if your baby, or if you think your baby is not getting enough to drink in the first couple of days, like the first 24 hours, a lot of moms are freaking out by that point. They're like, my baby is starving. Not Katie taking notes. Katie, take them notes. My baby is starving. You know, I'm not making milk. I don't know what I'm doing. My baby's not latching. Boom. They're going to give that baby a bottle because, well, I mean, nobody wants their baby to be hungry. Cluster feeding is a thing people need to know about. Like all the things. And it's like, we need more breastfeeding education beforehand for people, but we also need people to be responsible for themselves too, because I feel like people prep for everything but having a baby in the right ways, I should say. Hey Yana, hey Dusty, welcome in. People prep for everything in the right way, except for when it's time to have a baby. Thank you for the daily. They will prep like nobody's business to plan that baby shower. They will prep like nobody's business for the wedding, getting, you know, anything else that they're doing. Their birthday is coming up. Let me pin this real quick so that I can answer that in a second. They will plan for everything else. But when they tell you, you should go to childbirth classes. I don't want to go to no childbirth class so somebody could teach me how to, like, go to the damn childbirth class, because that's not what it's all about. Or people are used to seeing what they see on TV and these like really exaggerated things. Like, please shut the hell up and go to a childbirth class, because then you're going to be sitting there looking stupid. And take a breastfeeding class. hire a lactation consultant before you give birth, because I do prenatal consultations with people for lactation so that they can already have me on their team, so that as soon as they give birth, they can call me and be like, I had the baby this morning. How soon can you come to my house? And I'm penciling them right in. When you wait until you already had the baby, it'd be like you scrambling to find a support person, and that's overwhelming in itself. And then people are just like, forget it, and they give up. Alexa asks, is cluster feeding better or different than scheduled feed? So for one, you shouldn't schedule feedings. We say watch the baby, not the clock. The only time you should watch the clock is if your baby hasn't nursed in like 3 to 4 hours, then you want to feed your baby. You want to wake them up and feed them or whatever. Because newborns can sleep even if they need to eat. They will sleep through a feeding, and people be like, oh, but if they're sleeping, then that means they're fine. No, they're a newborn. They don't know how to really regulate anything. You have to wake them up to feed them, you know? But other than that, you let your baby nurse as often as they want to nurse. Because nursing is not just for feeding. Nursing is for immune support. Nursing is for bonding. Nursing is for comfort. Nursing is to help them when they're about to have a growth spurt. It will signal your body to create more milk. So cluster feeding, right? And sometimes they just want a snack. Exactly. But cluster feeding is when they are nursing really frequently, sometimes every 30 minutes. And it usually can last for a couple days, and it usually happens like every few weeks. So when they're first born, it's like in the first week, and then the second week, and then like the third week, and then the fourth week. And then after that, it's usually every couple weeks. And cluster feeding will have moms thinking that I don't have enough milk. I don't know what's happening. My baby is hungry every 30 minutes. Cluster feeding is not that you don't have enough milk. It's actually the opposite. Cluster feeding is your baby signaling your body that they're about to grow. So we're going to tell you to increase your milk supply a little bit more because I'm going to be growing soon. Hey, She Pressure, welcome in. So it's actually the opposite. If you actually don't have milk, your baby will most likely be screaming at the breast because they're most likely not going to be getting anything out. Like, I had this one mom, and she came to the office and she was feeding her baby, and she was like, see, I don't really feel full. It doesn't feel like anything's really coming out. And I was like, but your baby's drinking, and like she's gulping. You could see her jaw moving. She's drinking. She's staying there. I said, tell me this. If you gave your baby a bottle, and you gave your baby an empty bottle and put the bottle in their mouth, and they tried to drink out of that bottle, what do you think is going to happen? And she was like, the baby's probably going to start crying. And I was like, why would the baby start crying? Because the bottle's empty. Ding, ding, ding. I mean, if your baby is at the breast and nothing's coming out, they're going to pop that titty out and be like, what the hell is happening? Where's the milk? And they're going to start crying. So if your baby's there and they're nursing and they're content and they're not crying or fussing or whatever, you probably got milk coming out, man. So it's like sometimes, like, I get it and it's overwhelming, but like the postpartum brain, common sense goes out the window sometimes. People don't. And she was like, I didn't even think about that. And I was like, common sense be going out the window. And it's not like I'm saying people are dumb. It's just when you're postpartum in that postpartum period, and like you got 8 million other things going on in your brain, you're not thinking about the things that make sense sometimes. So Yana, thank you for those 2026s. Ahmed, welcome back in. And I did pin that, but I didn't get to read it before I was done yapping. Kaya said, if you're in a hospital, there's a chance you won't see the lactation consultant before you're released. And that is exactly true too, especially depending on when you give birth. If you give birth on a Friday afternoon or a Friday evening, when the lactation consultant might be getting off her shift for the night, and then there's no lactation consultant over the weekend, on the holiday, something like that, and you have the baby on Friday, the lactation consultant is going home, and then you're probably going to go home on Sunday, and there might not be a lactation consultant over the weekend. If you give birth in the middle of the night, there's 99% chance you're not going to see a lactation consultant until the next day. And that's if they don't already have people on their agenda who were like, you know, kind of already gave birth before you, and they got to go in. It's Monday, and now they're trying to go see people who gave birth yesterday. You know, girl, that is a lot of Furby noise right now. She got all her Furbies talking right now, singing to make like what? Yes. So lactation consultants can work in different environments. They can be employed directly by a hospital or doctor's offices and clinics. You may see some at pediatric offices even. They may have their own lactation consultant staff. It just depends on their business. I work for myself. So I will go see anybody. Hey, Kat, welcome in. Thank you for the daily. I will go see anybody. So the only thing about private lactation consultants is that if the person is paying with insurance, the insurance usually will not cover a lactation visit if you go see them in the hospital. So usually I tell my clients, thank you. I usually tell my clients if they're giving birth in the hospital, to request as much support as possible from the nurses and any lactation staff that they have there. Thank you for the pops. And if they need something, they can just call me, and I won't worry about charging them over the phone, but I'll schedule with them to go to their home ASAP, like the day that they get home from the hospital. If they want it, I'll meet them at their house as soon as they pull up and be like, let's get going. If you have a home birth, even better. I'll be there ASAP. Like, I ain't coming over in the middle of the night, but I'll be there. Like, you know, I mean, if they want me there in the middle of the night and they want me to be on call, I mean, if you talking enough money, you feel me? Just say the word. Money talks. It really does. And that's the benefit of doing your own private practice, is that you can add in like last minute fees, overnight or after hour fees, whatever. So I can really see people anywhere, or I can just tell them to come to my office. But that's the beauty of lactation work. You can kind of you can go wherever. I like the home visits though. They're nice, but I really want to do a lot of prenatal focused lactation support this year, because I feel like 50% of issues can be non-existent if people just got the education beforehand. Any of my like birth clients, like my doula clients, they get added to my my breastfeeding crash course so that they have access to that information, because people don't know about cluster feeding. People don't know about what's normal when it comes to latching, and like fear of, I'm not making enough milk. How do I know if I'm making enough milk? And all of those little things that usually are not even actually a problem. People going out and buying all these lactation products that they don't really need. Numbers fact, less than 5% of people who get pregnant and have a baby will actually not produce enough milk. Welcome in, Terry. Welcome in, Keish. Less than 5% of people. So all the moms out there that you hear like, oh, I quit because I wasn't making enough. The likelihood of that being actual and factual is about this big. Less than 5% of mothers. And it doesn't matter how big, how small. Like, I am not super blessed in that area, but I breastfed 6 kids. And I nursed for 11 years straight without a break. And in fact, I had an oversupply a couple of times where I had way too much milk, and I donated gallons and gallons of Ziploc bags full of milk to friends and clients and whoever. Hey, Slaughter Girl, welcome in. So it does not matter your size, whatever. There are some instances where people may be more likely to have a lower production rate, and that's people who have like PCOS, people who are really young, so like teen moms, because they may not be fully even developed just yet. Thank you for the pops, and hey Empress, welcome in. Moms who have diabetes. Let's see. Can't think off the top of my head right now. But those are really like the top three. And then those who may have had breast surgeries. So either enhancements or even especially reductions. And actually people who have had a reduction are more likely to have breastfeeding issues than people who have an implant. Because most implants today are placed behind the muscle. And so it really doesn't affect the breast tissue too often. Whereas people who have a reduction, they're actually removing breast tissue. And so the risk of damaging the tissue is more likely with a reduction than with implants. So that's another fun fact. So people with implants can indeed breastfeed, most of them. But if you've had a reduction, you may have more problems producing. But yeah, most people can produce just enough. But I think that there's a lot of, well, not I think, I know that there's a lot of misunderstanding and lack of education around what is a normal supply. What does a normal supply look like? Can you go get Augie's bed from my room, Piggy, so he can get off her chair? He needs his bed, that's why. The dog is trying to curl up on my daughter's little beanbag chair, and he's such a potato that he can't even fit on it. He's like falling off. But that's because his bed is in my room and he wants to be out here, so his butt is like hanging off. I'm like, can you go get his bed so he can get out her chair? She's looking like, why is the dog in my chair? Are there certain foods that can help your supply? Yes, but people should understand. Oh, your bed is over here. People should understand this. If you are truly having supply issues or concerns, for one, don't take matters into your own hands. The first thing you need to go do is speak to a lactation consultant, because they can help you get to the root of the problem. And often if you're having minor supply issues like a dip in your supply, or even just an overall like slow start. So some women, like if you have PCOS, or if you've had a C-section, for example, sometimes it can take a little bit longer for your milk to really start flowing. But in those instances, a food or a supplement are not always like the first go-to thing. Your first go-to thing is supply and demand. The more you tell your body to make milk, the more your body will usually make milk. So it's a matter of increasing how often you're expressing milk. So whether you start to put your baby on more often, or you're you're pumping in between nursing sessions, pumping one side while you nurse on the other side, or doing power pumping, which is like you pump for 10 minutes, you rest for 5, you pump for another 10 minutes. Hey, Anthony, welcome in, and so on and so forth. And you repeat that cycle for about an hour. And then you give it a break for a couple hours, and you do that a few times a day. That kind of mimics cluster feeding, which, like I said, cluster feeding is your baby's way of telling your body to start making some more milk for that growth spurt. Hydration, super important. Making sure that you're drinking enough. I will say that eating well can be really helpful. Eating good, healthy fats can help with the fat content of your milk and whatever else. But I will say this, it is not the most important thing. Obviously, the better you can do with your nutrition, that's just better for anybody. But we have to also think about the fact that there are people in other countries who don't have proper nutrition, who are not eating well-balanced diets, and they are the people who are nursing their children until they're 5 and 6 and 7, because breast milk is still in plenty, and it's providing nutrients for their child in ways that they may not be able to access through foods. So even if you don't have the best diet, you can still breastfeed, and you should still breastfeed. if you are a smoker, you should still breastfeed. And actually, it's better for your baby. Like if you smoke cigarettes, it's better for you to still breastfeed your baby than to not breastfeed your baby, because the effects of second or even third hand smoke for your baby, breastfeeding can help actually protect your baby. It's best if you like nurse first and then go have your cigarette, so that this way you nurse and then immediately go out, you have your cigarette, and by the time your baby's ready to nurse again, that nicotine will kind of be removed from out of your system at that point. Hey Coach Felix, welcome in. Thank you for grabbing your Daily Heart Me. I appreciate you. We're doing some lactation talk right now. So, if you got any ladies in your life that might be interested in this topic, or if maybe you're a dad to be, I don't know. But that's the topic today. Well, for the next 20 or so minutes. Then I'm in the streets. I'm in the streets, guys. I'm itching. I want to battle. I'm not even going to hold y'all. I want to battle. But it's still beneficial for you to y'all know I have a problem, right? Y'all know I have a problem. Anyway, but it's still beneficial even if you are a smoker. It's still better for your baby to provide breast milk if you are a smoker. So there are a lot of things that I just think people actually think is the opposite. But speak to a lactation consultant first. Get to the root of the problem to see if you, first of all, if you actually have a low supply. And if you do, are there some things that you can try before moving on to any types of supplements or foods? There are some foods that can naturally just kind of be supportive. Oats, for example, that's like one of the top foods. Brewer's yeast, whatever. But you have to think about this. Why would foods in particular be helpful to your milk supply? It's not just the food itself. It is what's in it, the vitamins, the minerals, the nutrients. If you continue taking your prenatal vitamins or your postnatal vitamins and you just eat a general well-balanced diet, you most likely won't need to look for specific foods to help you. Do I think that supplements can be helpful? Yeah, I've promoted supplements on here for breastfeeding. I do think that they can be helpful, but they do have a time and a place, and you should definitely ask a lactation consultant if it's appropriate for you. All supplements are not created equal, and you don't want to cause more problems. So always ask before you just buy a supplement and see what would be recommended for you. If anybody's interested in looking at any supplements that I normally recommend, if I feel like it's needed, they are in my showcase. Katie said, what do you do when it hurts to breastfeed or gets the knots? I don't know what it's called. LOL. So if it hurts to breastfeed, that is most likely a latch issue. The baby is not latching onto the breast properly. And usually the reason for that is an anatomical issue. It could be an anatomical thing that is because of the mom, which sometimes those things can't be helped. Nipple size, nipple shape. But more times than not, it's an oral anatomy issue with the baby. And they usually have a lip tie or a tongue tie. So like, the frenulum. And that can keep them from opening their mouth the way that they need to latch on well, which is one of the things that I do is oral assessments, which is why when y'all hear me talk about why I wear press-ons, it's because, well, if I need to do an oral assessment for an infant, I'm definitely not sticking these claws in their mouth. So I need to just be able to pop them off real quick if I need to. Hey, lovely. Welcome in. I need to be able to just pop them off so that I can lift the lip and look underneath the tongue and do an oral assessment. If I find that they are tied in any way, usually I will send out a referral to a pediatric dentist or an ENT. Thank you for the daily. And this way they can get a revision. And a revision is usually done with a laser or a sterile scissor, and it's just lasered. The little, skin or tissue is lasered or it's clipped. And then this helps to restore the function. But there's more to it. You have to do oral exercises with the baby, and sometimes suck training to help them relearn how to nurse without the ties. So it could be a process. But if it's hurting, it's usually, thank you for the hand hearts. If it's hurting, it's usually a latch issue. So getting them checked for revision is usually going to be the number one thing. Sometimes they don't have to go for a revision just because they have a tie. You can do oral exercises and work with the baby. I appreciate you stopping in and making your rounds. I hope you have an amazing day as well. Shout out to you for hitting level 12 in the room. I'm not going to press that clap button because I really hate it. I don't hate it. I just hate that people overuse it. You know, when you go in people's room and they be pressing that shit every 5 seconds. Like, all right, that's enough. That's enough. That will make me leave somebody's room. I'm not gonna lie. Or mute them real fast if I'm co-hosting. Anyway, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Press it once and then be done. You don't have to press it. Or when they do the laugh one, like every time they make a little terrible joke and it's like, all right. All I hear is laughs and the claps. So that's usually the main reason why it would hurt. You also want to make sure that you have the proper balms and creams for the first, like, you know, few days or weeks, because it shouldn't hurt, but it can be a little uncomfortable. Hey, the right shirt, welcome in. Especially if you've never breastfed before, this is going to be a totally new experience for your nipples. And they can get a little raw and, like, you know, uncomfortable. So making sure that you have the right creams can help. And the knots that you were referring to are known as clogged ducts. So your milk ducts can get clogged. And usually that only happens if milk is not being removed enough or efficiently. Or like when you have an oversupply, which, hey Patty, welcome in. If you have an oversupply, you're more likely to experience those clogs because you may not be able to move all the milk. So when you feel those like knots, you want to get them out, because if not, they can turn into an infection, and then you can have mastitis. And mastitis is not fun. Mastitis is, yeah, I remember that. You used to call me damn near in tears, like, this shit hurts so bad I can't even put my arms down. I remember that shit. Man, whoo, the worst, okay? The worst. I know, his little bird mouth. I remember that. Oh, man. But you want to get those out because they can turn into mastitis, and mastitis is the breastfeeding version of the flu. Like, you don't get necessarily the sniffles or, you know, a sore throat or anything like that, but you get a fever, you get the chills, you get body aches, and you will basically feel like you have the flu when you get mastitis. And then you may potentially need antibiotics and treatments to help you get over the mastitis. So that is not fun. Not fun at all. So yeah, you want to get rid of those. I tell people, you know, you can use gravity to your advantage. So dangle feeding, so like going on hands and knees position and letting your breast hang downward and removing milk that way. So either nursing your baby, like lay your baby on the floor. Her take on things, welcome in. Or pumping that way. Utilize your partner. Thank you for the daily. Utilize your partner to help you out. You know, if your baby's not strong enough to do it, try to pump it out. Massaging and actually using, I don't have one next to me, but I mean, I'm saying, listen, one time I went on a little mini staycation and I was still nursing. And I stupidly did not bring any type of pump with me, but like, I didn't think about it because she wasn't a baby. She was like, I don't know. Well, no, it wasn't with her. It was the last one. He was like 2. So it wasn't like he was a baby where I needed to like pack a pump with me. I was not used to having to pack a pump, but I was still producing milk. And then we went to stay at a hotel overnight and I was like, yo, what the fuck? Thank you for the 2026s. I was like, bro, you got to help me because I got to do something. He was like, put me in, coach. So, I mean, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So, listen, it's a thing, okay? But anyway, get your partner to help you. Utilize your pump. Use warm compress, a comb, because a hot shower can help. But a hot shower alone wouldn't really remove the clog itself, but it can help to soften it up. So you could do a hot shower or a compress. Chrissy, hello. Yes. Also, how are you and that baby doing? I hope y'all doing good. But a hot shower can help to like kind of soften the clog a little bit, but you would still want to do something to help move it out. So you want to do some massage. You could use a comb, like I said, like, and gently like to help break it up. If you have an electric toothbrush or similar adult toy that you can clean and you can vibrate it out. People look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. I'm like, I mean, you want to have mastitis or just make it a like fun adult night. Call your partner over and be like, hey, look, I got this little toy and I need your help. He's gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm just saying it works. A milk blister, you more so want to do a warm compress for a milk blister to kind of help soften the skin. You could also, for a milk blister, if you have a haka, you could fill it with Epsom salt and warm water and suction it on there. It could help draw the blister out. Unless the skin gets thin enough that you can just gently scrape it with clean nails, you want to avoid popping it yourself. If the blister gets to a point where like the warm compress and the pumping and whatever doesn't release the blister, you can, if you have the skills to do so, you can lance it with sterile stuff. Because for me, I just know my level of knowledge and training and expertise in medical stuff that I could lance my own if I had one. But, you know, some people, hey, no, you're not letting the dog out. No, he didn't. This girl done let the dog outside. And he over here eating the snow like a weirdo. He just walking around going. But yeah, I know my own abilities, and so I know I can take care of my own if I need to. But some people you just got to be like, you got to go to your doctor for that so that they could lance it. But yeah, for a milk blister. So sometimes, guys, the skin around the areola and the nipple can be really thin. And sometimes you can get milk trapped under the skin, and it's like a little, hi, Natasha. Welcome in. It becomes like a little blister. So it's almost, it's a blister, like a pimple almost, with just milk trapped under it. And the skin can grow over it more, and it can become a little uncomfortable. But you try to just use some warm compress to soften and thin the skin so that it could release a little bit more easily. Come on, bro, it's cold. Y'all, it is, listen, look at this. We still got mad snow out here. August, come on, it's cold. I don't know where this dog went. Where did you go? Oh, he's over there. My son done left his skeleton out here. The skeleton just been laying out here fighting for his lifeless life. Yeah, Katie, I'm telling you, it's like there's so much that I could listen. Come on. Let's go. There's so much that is like out there that people could learn about. Look at him. Look at him. Potato. What were you doing? Get in. Got me out here freezing. Now my glasses are gonna be dark. But there's so much stuff that like people could learn beforehand that would really make the experience and the process so much less intimidating. So much less intimidating. And like imagine going into it and not knowing some of this stuff that I just talked about. And a lot of what I just talked about is really basic stuff that the average person may experience. And imagine experiencing these things and having no idea what it is. And you've already given birth. You have no idea where to start looking for a lactation consultant in your area or who can help you. And then you find one, you might have to wait for an appointment, and they may not have availability for 2 to 5 days if you're lucky. By then you in the trenches. You already done been like, you know what? Nope, I'm just have to give this baby a bottle because I don't know what I'm doing and I can't get an appointment for 5 days. I can't wait 5 days. I need to feed my baby. What are you going to do? You're probably going to give your baby some formula. And I also wish that people would stop turning their nose up or start to consider. You're going to be overly prepared. Listen, you can't be too prepared, okay? You can't be too prepared because there's so much stuff to know. Listen. Thank you, Alexa. I appreciate you. It's so much stuff to know. You can't be overly prepared, but like I forgot what I was saying prior to that. I'm not even gonna hold you. The party hat kind of I shook my head and then I lost my thoughts. Hey Hassie, welcome in. Thank you for the daily. Hey Summit, welcome in. Come on. Thank you for the mask. Thank you for the daily. So getting I've been good. We are currently doing a lactation power hour Q&A, ask your IBCLC. So as you see, I'm in my scrubs today and I am coming to the end of giving out some info about like lactation, all things breastfeeding, preparing for some common questions, concerns, things like that, because I just wanted to be able to do something else in between the battling to just provide like some value. And a lot of people have been saying, well, why don't you do like talk about your doula work and your lactation work? And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I really didn't want to. Thank you for the fireworks. I really didn't want to because I feel like this has been my life for the last 11 years. Every day, my life usually revolves around birth work in some capacity. And I like being on TikTok and being able to do something that is not related to anything else that I'm doing. It's a whole different world, a whole different experience. I can just kind of welcome in, y'all. I can just kind of do something that's different. But there have been so many like questions and people like just wanting to know some stuff. So I said, you know, I also feared doing it and then not really getting any contributions. And I was like, I'm not going to be here every day talking about doula stuff and people just asking me all these questions and not contributing in my room. And I didn't want it to turn into that. But I said, I am going to think about doing this once a week. So maybe, you know, because Saturdays are usually one of the slower days of the week for me. I figured Saturday could be a good day for me to offer some of my time with things like that. You know, and so doing a power hour so that it's also not so long of a time that I feel like I spent all day doing this and nobody contributed. So it's like, look, it's an hour. People can come in and go as they need to, ask their questions. They can stay for the whole hour if they want. And then if anybody needs anything after that, they could reach me and, you know, get a consult or something like that. Thank you for the level up, Sparks. Any suggestions for if a child is going to daycare and the child is not bottle fed? Let me tell you something. Some babies, hold on. Really? Please hold, y'all, because I took some stuff out the fridge and my kids just like left it there, and they didn't toss it, and now the dog's in the kitchen trying to eat it. My suggestion is that if you know your child has to go to daycare, that you start getting them prepped. Because some breastfed babies will totally refuse a bottle. And there are some babies who have to go to daycare and they do totally refuse to drink while they are there. And I'll talk about that. But the best thing you could do is really try to introduce a bottle to your baby as soon as possible. And I say as soon as possible, but including the fact that you want to give them time to learn breastfeeding first. So if a mom, one of the questions that I always ask my breastfeeding clients is, do you have to go back to work? And if so, how soon? If a mom needs to go back to work after 6 weeks, hey, Crystal, wish this works too if the mom has to go back to work and the child is at home with family. Right, exactly. Either way, even if they don't have to go to daycare, if the mom has to go back to work and somebody has to watch the baby, this is gonna be the thing. So I asked them, how soon do they have to go back to work? If they have to go back to work at 6 weeks, I say that they should start to think about introducing the bottle around like 3 weeks. You want to give them the first, in an ideal world, I tell people, if you don't have to introduce a bottle or use a breast pump before 6 weeks, set them to the side. Don't even look at them. Okay. Unless there is a reason that you need them, don't touch them for the first 6 weeks. The first 6 weeks is the prime time of where your supply is getting established fully and where you and your baby are learning each other and learning this nursing routine, if you will. And I tell people, if you can survive the first 6 weeks of breastfeeding, you can make it after that point. The first 6 weeks are usually the hardest, and that's when like your body's recovering in other places and other things going on top of the breastfeeding. So like if you can make it the first 6-ish weeks, you probably gonna be good to continue breastfeeding for as long as you want to after that. But for moms who might have to go back at 6 weeks, I tell them they want to start thinking about it at 3 weeks. You have to think of, if you went to, this is the analogy I use with the families. If you went to an apple orchard and somebody said, you could get these fresh apples off the tree, or we can give you these pre-sliced factory bagged apples. Which ones do you want? I think most people are going to pick the apple fresh off the tree, right? Yes. If you are trying to offer your baby a bottle and you got milk in them titties, why would they want to drink the bottle? They gonna be looking at you like, I smell the milk through your shirt, ma'am. Why are you trying to put this rubber plastic thing in my mouth? I don't think so. So some babies really just don't care. They're like, give me my milk however it comes. I really don't give a shit. But some babies are very picky. And so I recommend anybody introducing a bottle to have somebody else introduce the bottle to them. And you ideally shouldn't even be in the house. Don't be anywhere near, because when I tell you, babies have the most incredible sense of smell. They will smell you a mile away. You cannot be in the room. At the very least, you need to be in another room, in a different part of the house with the door closed. Go in the shower. Wash all your smell off of you. Go in the shower while somebody else gives the baby the bottle. And some moms are like, oh, but I want to be there when they... Well, you want to be there. Okay, you want your baby to take this bottle or not? Like, tell somebody to record it and send you a video. But you need to leave the room. And if you can, leave the house. Hey, Vonnie, welcome in. But that is like the number one starting tip when you want to introduce a bottle. Also, you want to make sure that you use the slowest flow nipple, because babies can get very lazy and comfortable. And if you give them the faster flow nipple and they start realizing they can get their milk out faster, they may not want to go back to the breast either. So, hey, shh. Yes, pace feed. I ain't talking about pace feeding today. That's going to have to be for another day because I'm already going over time. But if you want to know what that is, take note and go look up pace feeding. It's very important for breastfed babies. I mean, it's really important for any baby who's drinking a bottle. Honestly, it doesn't matter what's in the bottle. Pace feeding is important, but it's really important for breastfeeding. How long do I recommend breastfeeding? Let me tell you this. If you can make it a full year, amazing. That is probably the perfect sweet spot. If you could do a full year, that's great. Food before 1 is just for fun. So solid foods before baby's first birthday is just exploratory and fun. Your baby doesn't need full meals of solid foods before they're one year old. So until your baby is 1, milk is their primary source of nutrition. They don't need anything else other than your milk or formula for the first year. So ideally 1 year. I tell people who are uncertain about breastfeeding and like how they're going to feel, I'm like, if you can at the very least give your baby the first 6 weeks, at least try that. At least try that. Especially those who have babies born during like cold and flu season, because that colostrum and that early milk really is high in antibodies and is going to be their best protection against any illnesses, colds, viruses that they can receive minimal treatments for. So, but if I had to pick, like best, a year. Most of my babies were nursed for 2 to 3+ years, but a year is like really, really great if you can do a year. But anything is better than nothing. Do your best. Set yourself up for success with professionals, resources, and whatever. Anything that you can do is better than nothing. Some people do 50-50. Some people pump or breastfeed sometime and then do half formula. Like whatever you can do, something is better than nothing. And yeah, no need for plain water either, especially not before 6 months old. Babies under 6 months old should not have any plain water. But yeah, have somebody else introduce the bottle to the baby. Slowest flow nipple. Some babies simply don't like an artificial nipple. One of my sons, I think it was Pop, my last boy. He is 6 now. He would not take a bottle, but he would drink out of an open cup. They had these little tiny cups about this big. And it was silicone with a heavy bottom. And it was like baby's first cup. And it was for like 6 months and older. But babies can drink from a spoon. They can drink from a syringe. They can drink from a little medicine cup. If they're totally refusing a bottle, you can syringe feed, you can spoon feed, you can cup feed. It does take longer, but it can work. If baby refuses an artificial nipple. So that can be another way to feed a baby who doesn't want to take a bottle. But try having somebody else give the baby a bottle while you are not in the vicinity. And babies who are awake, at least, will not let themselves go hungry. Some babies will refuse to take more than just a couple of sips while they're at like daycare or with a provider. And then when the mother gets home, they are attached to the mother like glue until the next day when it's time to go back to work again. And they will just nurse and never let go until the next day. It happens, but it's not super often. Most babies will eventually give in and take the bottle if you introduce it at like the right time. You want to try not to do it too early to where they take the bottle and won't go back to the breast, but you don't want to wait too long to where they want nothing to do with it at all. But most babies do fine. They figure it out. They work it out. I've never seen a baby starve. That's all I'm gonna say. I've never seen a baby starve ever. So yeah, guys, I'm wrapping up my power hour. I really appreciate y'all being here and supporting, whether you were asking questions or just like my sister inputting little tidbits into the chat as well, just to add some extra tips and whatnot. I appreciate y'all for being here and getting the information. I feel like it went well, and I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I kind of miss doing a little teachy stuff. So I think I will continue to do them. Probably keep them for Saturdays and do a social Saturday power hour. The topics will change. But just remember, I appreciate you being here, Alexa. Just remember that this is what I do, like for real. So if anybody has questions, definitely hit me up for a consult. Hey, Ray. Thank you for the daily. Hit me up for a consult. If you or somebody that you know is needing any of this type of support, I do a lot of virtual support stuff, like education-based stuff. And if there's anything that somebody needs in person, like if they already have a baby or whatever, and they need like actual physical hands-on help, let me know, because I have been in this field for 11 years and I know people from everywhere. And if I don't directly know somebody from wherever you are, I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So just reach out. Let me know. Alexa said, I don't have kids yet, but me and my husband are trying, so I want to be prepared. Well, congratulations. I will, because it's been hard trying to keep going. Listen, just reach out. I understand you trying to pump now. Listen, make sure you're updating your pump parts. And if you haven't already, I will say this. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to pumping is not getting fitted for the proper flange size. There are different sizes, guys, for the pump parts. Okay, everybody's anatomy is not created equal. You need to get fitted. And it's ideal if you get fitted before and after you have the baby, because it can change. So get fitted for the right size so that your pump is working to its best ability for you. Not all pumps are created equal either. So those wearable ones are not going to be as great as the ones you plug into the wall. They're great when you need to wash dishes, or like real quick, you're having an outing, you're going somewhere, you're on the go, you need to pack a portable pump, whatever. But they are not meant to be used around the clock for your regular everyday pumping. Like if you're at work, ideally get you a wall plug-in electric pump or whatever. You used to just do on demand, so pumping is new to me. Yeah, well, make sure if you haven't gotten fitted, you got fitted. Some moms need to pump because they have to go back to work. And that can be the thing that makes or breaks somebody's breastfeeding relationship. Because if you're a mom who has to work, you depend on being able to pump at work to keep your supply going and to have milk for your baby for while you're at work. And if you're not able to get milk out in your pump while you're at work, you're going to quit pumping, not your job. I mean, you might quit your job, I don't know, but most people are going to quit breastfeeding and quit pumping. So you want to make sure that you have the right flanges. Talk to a lactation consultant about what the best pumps on the market are at the time, because they're constantly coming out with new pumps, and sometimes older is not always tried and true and the best. They are making better pumps I'm not going to say every day, but frequently new pumps are coming out, and some of them are better than the ones that we're like, oh, this is old trusty though. This particular Medela pump has been the greatest pump for. No, it ain't. Let me tell you, Spectra and the Similry pumps right now are like the top two pumps. I have a post about it. But yeah, your supply has dipped. That's why you've been trying to pump more. Okay, well, message me. Yes, don't sleep on hand expressing. Listen, hand expressing be where it's at. Hand expressing and the manual pumps. Let me tell you, I love me a good manual pump. Okay. I know it seems very like so old school to sit there and manually like pump the pump, but let me tell you, a little warm compress and a little massage beforehand and a manual pump will get you right every time.